And I'm delighted to say we are now joined by, fighting this weekend on ACB, the big slow Luke Barnett. Luke, thanks for taking the time. Fight week coming on to obviously Fight Talk.
I'm happy to be here, guys. Thanks a lot for your time as well.
Excellent. Leading up, big fight here, taking on Mamed Khalidov. It's a big fight. Could possibly, would you say, the biggest fight since outside of the UFC?
100% my biggest fight since outside the UFC, maybe even including my UFC career as well. Mamed's a huge name. He's been the biggest middleweight outside of the UFC for forever. I don't know, 6-7 years, something like that. And I really see it as the two best unsigned middleweights in the world, if not definitely in Europe, to compete against each other. So it's great to have that sort of fight happening at the top of a huge card for ACB.
Have you noticed a bigger reaction to this fight than your last couple with the name that Khalidov has?
Definitely a little bit of a reaction that way, but more, with the ACB coming to Manchester as well. So we're bringing it to England. It's the first time it will be in the UK or be in England. It was in Glasgow before, and the card is completely stacked. So there's a lot more hype around the total card. And then obviously Khalidov carries a huge name over in Poland. I got to go over to Poland, do a press conference, meet a lot of the Polish people. There's definitely been a bit more of a buzz around this fight than the previous ones.
How big of a star is Khalidov over in Poland?
The man's got his own energy drink. So he's pretty big, He has about 2 million people follow him across social media. So he's a superstar. He's crazy big out there. Same in Russia. He's obviously Chechenian, however you want to say it. Born and then moved to Poland. So he's got a mixture of those fans as well. So, extremely popular over there, but not too well known in the West, if you want to call it the West.
This was something that we done on the show at the start of the year, wasn't it? We talked about the best guys outside the UFC, and Rob was fighting the corner constantly for Mammed to get in there. Just coming at it, you're speaking about the UFC, the two best guys outside the UFC. Is that something that you see here? I almost hate talking to somebody when they're fighting on one promotion and talking about the other promotion. But is that something that you see this fight as your way back into the UFC? If you win this fight, you'll be on a 5-fight win streak, and as you said, top two guys outside of the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a pretty obvious question to ask because I beat this guy, I'm the top middleweight outside the UFC. The option will be there, so it's definitely the route back. I don't know if that's going to be the decision I make. I win this fight and try and get a finish. I'll be 5 fights, 5 finishes in a row outside the UFC. I did pretty well when I was in there as well. I came out, and I feel like if that option suits my lifestyle, that's where I'll go. That is where the ultimate level is, and that's where I want to be. So that could work. But there's also other organizations as well, like ACB growing in Europe, as well as KSW, where Mammed has been the champion for a long time. And there's other things going on now compared to before, 2 years ago, where UFC really was your only option, really to make a living out of the sport and to do what you want to do. Now I live a great life. I live in Spain. I live a great life. My money travels very far out here, especially with fighting, and it's not the only option available. So I'm not like begging and dying to go back to the UFC, but 100% win this fight, I will be talking to them and seeing what they have to offer. Yeah.
One thing that you've done recently was a bit of commentary with ACB with Brian Lacey. Would that be something that would come into your decision, maybe if the UFC or ACB or whoever offered you maybe something like that as well, a commentary position on different cards to, because it seems like that's something that you're really interested in doing, commentary and punditry as well outside of fighting.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I'm trying to grow at the back end of my career, but fighting's within the forefront for me. So I definitely want to be fighting, and I want to be looking for the best opportunities fight-wise. But say, for instance, joining the UFC wouldn't allow me to commentate for ACB, which is definitely could be something that they do. Financially, they'd have to support me on that decision so I could earn the money I do with ACB doing the commentary work, and also not getting the experience, which for me is extremely valuable. But they could offer me something in the UFC, or you just don't know what's going to happen. So it will all come into play. But I do love doing the commentary. I see it as a future for me. I feel very comfortable doing it. I like being analytical and breaking down fighters. So that's definitely going to be something I think about. I also worked with Cage Warriors once, and they've offered me to do more and more shows with Cage Warriors, but I just can't commit to the times now. And they're putting on a lot of shows, and I'm actually away for the next 2 shows. My best mate's getting married, so I'm going on the stag do, so I couldn't do that. And so I'm trying to fit everything in. I'm trying to fit it all in, and hopefully I could commentate with Cage Warriors, with ACB, and fight in the UFC at the same time. That would be would be great.
You spoke about having a gym over in Spain. How did that come about? Spain, of all places.
Well, I lived in California for a couple of years when I was training over at Alliance. Me and my wife were out there. My wife couldn't work because of visa issues, so it was just me working through my money I made in UFC. And then when we had to move back to England, my mum had moved to Spain. So we had the option of staying in England and doing what I was doing, but the time I'd moved to America, my gym, Tsunami Gym, had kind of taken a backward step, and there wasn't as many active fighters there. It kind of got replaced by BKK, which is in Essex. So I had to really think about what I was doing, and we missed the sunshine, really. In San Diego, the weather's great. The weather's great in Spain, so we decided to give it a go. We said, we'll go out there for 3 months, see what it's like, and I've been here coming up 2 years now. And like you said, I have a gym, Lilius Barnatt Martial Arts, which is in Torremolinos, which is in between Marbella and Malaga. The gym's going really, really well. I teamed up with a black belt from Finland, the youngest black belt Hodger Gracie's ever given a black belt to, in Santeri Lilius. So it's Lilius Barnatt, kind of like Winklejohn kind of thing, and I cover all the MMA stuff, and he covers all the jiu-jitsu stuff. So we have 2 schools. We have an MMA school and a jiu-jitsu school, and then we blend it together with some stuff as well. And then this year we're going to be launching summer camps, where we're going to be flying in coaches from different places. Primarily, the first camp we do is going to be in June, and I've got 4 coaches. One of them is myself, so I'm flying in 3 coaches, MMA, all UFC veterans, all very high-level guys, to then try and get people to come out here for the week and train and enjoy the sun and the lifestyle and the beer and, lay on the beach and do whatever as well. So that's another thing the gym's starting to generate as well.
We had Chris Fields on the show. I'm not sure if you remember Chris from his time in Tough. He was due to fight Liam McGarry at Bellator in Belfast as well. And Chris spoke to us about his coaching aspect. He runs an SBG out in Swords now, here in Dublin, and he was saying he finds with training it almost brings him back to fundamentals when he was learning to improve the simple things. Do you find out when you're coaching classes and stuff that it's almost, oh yeah, I forgot that, or you improve on your basics?
I've actually coached ever since day one. So when I started MMA, I really dived into it, and about 6-7 months into it, I started teaching beginners classes at Tsunami. Because I was dedicated for 6 months and I was training twice a day and all the rest of it. So after that, I started teaching. I really do enjoy teaching. And I think when I moved to America and I moved away from it, like you said, the basic little things you don't think about, which I have to think about all the time now because I have to teach it, you kind of they get dropped off. You don't drill them, you don't work them. But I make my guys drill the basics, and I have to be there drilling the basics, showing them the basics. And there'll always be someone say, why'd you do this? Or what if I did that? Or, and the question, I'm like, I don't know, because, and then you have to think, on your feet. So Nigel Burgess, who's a guy in the background of Tsunami that not many people know, but he always said to me that teaching is one of the best ways to prepare for a fight. And I never believed him. I thought he was talking a load of shit. And then after my experiences and going through it, I realized that it really is the fundamentals that you don't do because you think you're at such a high level. You lose that. So when you teach and you do repetition after repetition after repetition of basic things like head position when you're trying to wrestle, it just improves you overall. So I really feel like that's a big part of me right now is doing my coaching. I coach 3 times a week and I get to do lots and lots of drills.
I'm sure you won't mind me saying when you're leading up to fights, especially I remember your time over here in Dublin with the UFC. I think it was the build up to the McGregor-Brandao fight.
Yeah.
You were quite outspoken. I met you with my son. You were very gracious. You took a picture with my little boy, but you were shocked when I asked you for a picture. You sort of said, you want a picture with me? Were you listening to me in there? Because let's be honest, you were talking shit. But do you find like this has sort of crept into MMA a lot more? It's almost like every guy is trying to become a new persona and be the heel? What's your opinion on the modern promotion or self-promotion that fighters seem to be going down?
I think it's all right. And like you said, in my time in Dublin, when I came out there, I said a few things on podcasts a long time ago. There was one comedy podcast that I was on. It's a comedy podcast. I can't remember the name of it now, top of my head, and he's going to kill me because I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, I was on the podcast, and I said, like, a joke about the economy in Ireland. You know, I made this joke up, and I got jumped on about it, and I was just trying to be funny. You know, there was nothing in it. It's just like banter between England and Ireland that we've had for years and years and years. And obviously, I had the whole thing with Conor, and that went back and forth as well, and very passionate fans out there. So when I came to Dublin, like you said, and I did the, I'll never forget it because I went into the arena and I had to do a Q&A, I think. And the first question I got asked,
I remember this.
An 8-year-old or I don't know, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid.
That was Liam's son. That was his son.
It's difficult to be here when nobody likes you. I was like, I don't know how you answer that question. You know
Welcome to Ireland, motherfucker.
yeah, exactly.
I remember that because the little guy asked it. I love about these questions is people queue up to ask a question, and he queued just to ask that specific question, and the whole place erupted. But what's your take? Like you see a lot of guys now, and they are talking trash, and they try, especially like Woodley, who fought this weekend. He's saying he wants the big money fights, and he talks a lot of trash as well. And people are giving out. Dana came out and said that you know, to get the big money fights, you have to be an attraction. But it just seems like every fighter and their brother now are trying to hype fights by, in a way, like Conor or Chael, or you know, essentially the way you wear as well. You talk a lot. So what's your thought on the young guys and just be yourself? Or
I think exactly that. I think if you're naturally good at it and you enjoy it, and it's like, for me, it was fun. I was just having fun and messing around, and there's not much malice in it. And as in, malice is probably the wrong word, but you're not making it up. You're not sitting there and thinking. It's like you have these guys that don't have the persona, don't have the personality, don't have the character, and they just come across like idiots, you know, and it's hurting their brand more than helping their brand. And some people like the Wonder Boy, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's extremely skilled. He's never going to talk about trash in his life, you know, and people love him. Yeah. So you don't have to be that guy. But I think because Conor especially and Chael have had so much success with it, the reason they've had so much success with it is because they're good at it. Yeah. They're very, very good at it, and they're natural at it, and they're intelligent with it. They're not just, you know, sitting there and scheming. I'm sure Chael was sitting and scheming, thinking about it, but you know, like they're just good at it. And I've always said, like, with my persona, I do like to talk. You know, as you can tell when I answer these questions, I go on forever. But I'm natural with it, and I say what I think. I never make things up. I never try and think of a way to insult someone that's irrelative to the situation. You know, I just say what I feel and what I think. And if you disagree with me and that's what I believe, then that's your problem. And I'm sorry, but that's how it goes, you know. So I don't believe in making up a persona. I think I'm sure people have done it and been successful with it, but I don't believe that's what the sport is for. I don't think that's why I don't think we need that. But if you want to talk some trash and you don't like the guy, or the guy who does this and you think it's funny, then yeah, go for it. Say it. That's what I think. One
thing I have to ask, because it was only a week ago, Norman Park fought in Belfast against Paul Redmond. I was speaking to Norman backstage after it, and I brought it up. I was one of the last guys to interview him, and there was a lot of negativity backstage. I'm not too sure if you've seen that fight, but a lot of people were disputing the decision. And so we got talking, and Norman sort of let it out that he just felt since he got cut from the UFC, the hunger, the motivation was sort of sapped from him. He found it hard to get himself up for these fights. And is that something that you felt or experienced when you got cut from the UFC or were released from the UFC? Did you find it hard to get to the gym, to push yourself?
For maybe the first 3 months, because I'd worked so damn hard to get there, I kind of enjoyed a bit of time off. I also got married as well, so that took a bit of my time up. But no, not at all. Listen, I got to the UFC when I was 25. Well, I was 24 technically. I got the Ultimate Fighter. I started MMA when I was 21. I didn't do anything before that. So within 3 years, I was in the Ultimate Fighter. I was 25 when I was on my 25th birthday when I had my first ever fight in the UFC. I had 6 fights there. I believe I won 5 of those fights. You know, technically I went 3-3, but I believe I won 5. So I came out, I lost to Mark Munoz in the Philippines. I got beat. Good on the guy, you know what I mean? I come out, I had a little bit of time off. I've refreshed myself since then. I've gone 4-4, all 4 finishes in different countries. I went to Italy, I've been to Romania, and I fought in England. And now I'm about to fight the biggest middleweight in Europe ever, really, outside the UFC. And it's great. You know, I've never been more motivated. I've never been more happy. And I'm not sure if this is correct when I say this, but I think not in Europe, but definitely in England or in the UK, I don't think anyone has ever been cut from the UFC and then returned. There might be someone, I can't think off the top of my head. But I think when I beat Mamed, I'll be the first guy to do that. And I don't know if that's why that is. Yeah. Like you said, people like Norman Park, who's extremely talented, extremely tough, extremely good, and he got cut a bit. It was not a dodgy cut, but you wouldn't expect it the way it happened. And if he's getting that feeling like it's over and that he can't get up for fights, then that might be why people aren't getting back there. But for me, I haven't even started yet. You know what I mean? This is the beginning for me. This fight against Mamed, win or lose, whatever happens, it's just the beginning. I'm 28 now. 28, I've been training for 6-7 years. I've only kind of just worked out what the hell I'm doing, so I got a long time left, and if I get knocked back again, I'll keep going, it doesn't matter.
Coming into the fight, bringing it into the fight, what is the game plan? Obviously, you're not going to tell us the ins and outs of the exact game plan, but what do you see here? Where's the weakness? What's the hole in the game you're looking for?
Definitely cardio, high pace, keeping the pressure on Mamed. Mamed's 36 or 37 now. He's had a couple of operations. He's very unpredictable in the way he fights. He likes to dive at your legs and do crazy things, spinning kicks and all that sort of stuff. But it's almost being like a steam engine and just being in his face and chugging away at him constantly, picking away at him constantly. And that's it. And then I'm pretty sure the power I possess at middleweight, I'm very big for the weight. I'm very, very long for the weight as well, obviously. And I feel like if I land a right hand, I think if I keep going and keep going and keep going and land the right hand, he's not going to be able to deal with it. And I've just got to be cautious to be prepared for his flashy movements because he likes to do crazy things. And as long as I'm focused for 15 minutes, I feel like I'm either going to win on a very, very one-sided decision or I'm going to get a finish later in the rounds. That's how I see the fight going. I see him looking to get it to the ground or looking to do something fancy, but if he doesn't succeed with his fancy movements, he loses. There's no he's not going to beat me skill for skill, position for position in the whole 15 minutes. I'm better as a medium everywhere. I feel like I'm, if you broke it down position by position, I'm better everywhere. But he has those glimpses of, don't want to call it brilliance because it sounds a bit too nice, but you know what I mean? He's unique. He does strange things that not many fighters do. So if he does one of those unique things and I'm unexpected it and I'm off balance, then I could be in some trouble. But stay away from those, keep hitting him in the face, and eventually he'll fall.
Speaking of size, when the fight was announced, you were in the cage together. Did you get a chance to size him up? Because you looked a lot bigger in the cage when you were in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I actually met him when I was in Poland for KSW a little while ago and sized him up then. But then, we got to meet. I did a press conference with him, so we spent a bit of time together, and then I got to size him up in the cage. And the guy is not, a modern-day middleweight. Back 5 years ago, he was middleweight, but now you see the size of the guys coming through. He's not. Not saying he could make welterweight because I think he'd struggle a lot, but if he was young and dedicated, that's where he should lie. And I'm a lot bigger, a lot heavier than he is, and I feel like that's a huge advantage for me as well. I feel like usually what happens is you're bigger and heavier and stronger, that means you've cut more weight, which I probably am doing, but that usually affects your cardio. But I'm a cardio monster, that's my strongest thing. So I think I have all of the pluses, all of the big good things. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm longer, and I'm fitter. So physically, I feel like I'm all over this guy.
I have to bring it up just to see, in a way, where you affected yourself coming in with the controversy that happened with ACB, obviously with the overturned fights and the decisions. Have people tried to reach out to you about that, considering the UK officials and judges have withdrawn from the event? Is that anything that affected you in your build up to this?
I definitely got contacted about it. I think I gave a statement about it to a few people, but. Yeah, they ACB had a show in Vienna, and
there was, I think, 2 decisions that they overturned that they disagreed with, and like I said in the statement, I believe it's all the referees are Dan Mulcahy, Mark Goddard, and there might be one more. I can't remember, and then the judges as well. So there's 3 judges and 3 refs, and I feel like they've done the correct thing. They've made the right statement not to continue. I think it's a great idea because you can't just have people going willy-nilly and changing results and doing what they want. At the same time, I kind of like the fact that the ACB brass, if you want to call them that, are willing to do things and make changes and put, you not use their power is the wrong phrase, but, they're not just sitting back and just being, oh, no, it's okay. If they felt that it was that way, I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, and I don't know, I'm not a judge and all the rest of it, but I like the fact that they're willing to step in and make decisions. The same as, it was a long time ago, but they had a fight between a guy named Mammed Khalidov and Petr Yan last year, which was very, very close, and Myrebek, the owner, didn't feel like the decision was correct. He didn't change the result, but he came into the cage. He said, I don't think this decision is correct. We're going to have a rematch. And it's taken a bit of a while, but now April 15th, they have the rematch of Petr Yan versus Mammed Khalidov. And I like that. I like that he's willing to step in there and make a difference to the promotion. I don't think he should be overturning decisions. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But at the same time, there's a few decisions that happen in the UFC that should be overturned and don't get overturned. Like mine against Sean Strickland in Germany. There was no way I lost that fight. There's no one on the planet that thinks I lost that fight. But yeah, I lost it, and that cost me financial. It's on my record forever, and all these sort of things. So if I had Myrebek back then, Dana White tweeted out saying, "I don't think Luke lost that. I think I think Luke won." Then I would have a win and not a loss, and I'd be richer. So as a fighter, it's hard,
Did you happen to catch the fights at the weekend?
I saw the main event and 2 others. I saw Rashad. I saw the heavyweights over him, and I saw the main event. Yeah.
What did you think of the main event? What way did you? I know you just said you're not a judge, but as the fan on the couch, what way did you score it?
I went Wonderboy. I went 3-2, which I think everyone did. But I heard, I don't know if this is correct, that one of the judges scored it 10-8 in the last round, which swayed it.
No, that was the judge that actually scored it a draw, wasn't it? Because it was a majority win for Woodley. So yeah. But
it was a 10-8 though, yeah.
What's his name? Bennett, is it?
Bob Bennett, yeah.
Bob Bennett came out and said that 10-8 was wrong. Basically, the judge was going off the new rule set, but the new rule set for scoring isn't applied in Vegas yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, obviously, Woodley won the last round. I feel like Woodley won the round when he got the takedown. I believe it was the second. I can't remember off the top of my head. But every other round, he didn't do anything. People are saying Wonderboy, but Wonderboy at least was aggressive, striking, outstriking him on the stats. And I just don't see how you can look at it any other way. Exactly. So we talk about judging, and now I feel like it should have been a draw again, but we don't want another draw.
Yeah.
So I feel like Wonderboy edged it, and I feel like Wonderboy edged the first one. I feel like it was very, very close. And again, Woodley had 2 fantastic rounds, but apart from that, he didn't really do anything a lot of the time. So I felt for Wonderboy. I feel like it was, and now he's going to have a long, long way to get back there because no one wants to watch that fight for a third time, especially after how many boos and how the fans reacted to it because it was a very slow technical fight. So he's going to have to build his whole career up again to get there. So yeah, it's tough. But I went Wonderboy for sure.
Speaking of your weight class as well at the top, what do you think of Bisping against GSP, the return of GSP, and he's getting a shot at the middleweight title?
I think GSP can do whatever he wants. As in, if people say, does he deserve it, blah, blah. Yeah, he deserves it. I don't think it's fair. I think it's completely unfair. But it's GSP. So he can do what he wants. That's my opinion. I think it's unfair on Yoel Romero, Luke Rockhold, Jacare, whatever. Do I think GSP will beat Bisping? I think it's a lot to ask from a guy who's been out. I know he's been training. I know a few guys at TriStar. I hear all about it, but it's very different to step in there now. The game's evolved a lot, as Mike says, and Mike is physically a very strong guy.
although he's not the biggest middleweight in the world, like when they had that little press conference, he was like, stand up, George, stand up, George.
Yeah.
And then when they faced off, they weren't actually that different, in my opinion. You know, but Mike is definitely bigger, but he's very physically strong. And if you look at the wrestling aspect, which is the one that people probably think GSP's got the advantage in, we just watch Michael Bisping versus Chael Sonnen. You know, the guy can wrestle, and he's very. And I think GSP's going to have a bit of a rude awakening there. And most of GSP's fights go to a decision. Most of Mike's fights go to a decision. And I just feel like Mike will outpoint him, outstrike him, move, use the outside. You know, but in the same breath, I would love GSP to win because I'm probably the biggest GSP fan going. And that's nothing against Mike at all. I don't want to see I don't want to see these guys like Anderson Silva and GSP. I don't want to see GSP come back and then lose, and it just kind of ruins what he was, you know. So I really hope he comes back. He somehow wins. I don't think he'll win, but he somehow wins, and then he just retires again. I don't want him to like keep. I don't want to see it. I don't want to watch it. Of course, I will watch it. But I don't want to, you know.
Yeah, it's the BJ Penn effect, isn't it? You don't want to see that comeback like that. And I think it'll be different with George St-Pierre. I just think he's just special. I agree with you in the sense that if GSP wanted to fight for the heavyweight title, let him. You know what I mean? He's done that much for the sport. I honestly think so. Well, we're going to let you go. Thanks for taking the time for coming on. We wish you the best of luck on Saturday evening. Biggest fight, like you said, probably in your career. I look forward to watching it. And again, fight week. Thanks for taking the time to come on to us, Luke.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for your time as well. I know I like to talk, so I appreciate it.
Cheers. You're welcome. We'll get you back on again, me man. Thanks a million.
Cheers, man.
Take care.